Welcome back to part 2 in our year of content planning series. I'm Coach Molle from Visibility Hacking Studios, and yes, it is entirely possible to plan out an entire year's worth of content and more in less than an afternoon, and that is the mission that we are on today. In today's video, we are going to talk about storytelling and how to effectively tell stories with your content and then translate that into that talking points and headlines. So we're really going to see our roadmap fully fleshed out by the end of today's video. So without further ado, roll that intro. I'll see you on the other side. Let's talk about the basics of storytelling. If you want to tell stories that will ultimately convert your listeners into paying customers, i.e., you want to tell a story for the purpose of conversion to move that viewer from a place of indecision to a place of decision, then you need to tell the right kinds of stories. There's a fantastic framework when it comes to creating sales-driven content, and that is the hook, story, offer framework. From a marketing perspective, this framework is genius. So hook is what will grab your viewers' attention, at least enough to stop them scrolling. The story that you tell them is what keeps their attention, and then at the end of that story, you give them an offer. Whether that offer is like literally, I'm offering you my product, here's the price, or your offer is an invitation to ask more questions, to further that relationship, to join, to follow, to subscribe, all of those micro commitments as well. We want to have that invitation, and we want to be in that process of constantly inviting our viewers of our content to get deeper in with us, No matter where your content is, you're always going to follow that same 3-step framework. And if your content isn't converting, well, again, the problem is in one of those 3 pieces of the framework. What we talk about in our year of content process, where we are in the stage right now, is we're going to be looking at those hooks. Those are the headlines. Those are the talking points that are going to get people going. So I want you to constantly keep in mind how valuable these hooks are, how valuable it is to pay attention to what is truly grabbing your audience's attention. Which brings us to our question of the day. I'm curious, how is the year of content process going for you? How long have you spent on it so far? Are you whizzing through? Are you getting stuck on things? I am here for you. The rest of the Visibility Hacking team is here for you. Let us know what your stumbling blocks. Let us know your feedback down in the comments below. And don't forget, if you haven't already, download your copy of the Year of Content workbook. It's available as well with the links down in the description. Previous to this point, what we have done is identified what our main big topic is. We've divided those into the essential pillars, and now we've driven down and we've looked at the individual processes to achieve those main pillars. Now it's time to get to the nitty-gritty. We're looking at the day-to-day or week-to-week of presenting this information. Your next step is to take each of those processes and divide those into 4 different talking points. Let's go back to that example we used previously with our fitness coach. They're looking at balance, and particularly we divided into different processes. We looked at vestibular, visual, as well as our proprioceptor systems. So let's look even deeper. Let's take one of those and create our talking points. So let's say it's our vestibular system. So that's the balancing that comes from your inner ear. Let's divide that into 4 talking points. Very simple. We can say, what is that system? This is a 4-step framework we can follow across a lot of different parts of this process, or a couple of the different pillars or processes within balance. So we can say, what is it? Do a whole day or a whole week on what is the vestibular system. We can talk about difficulties or injuries to the vestibular system so we can understand the mechanism of injury and how that might impact us. We can talk about overcoming those obstacles and going from a state of injury to a state of kind of more repair. And then on the 4th talking point, we can maybe say, how do we thrive? How do we go from injured to not injured? And then how do we go from there to thriving with our vestibular system? And as I mentioned, you can repeat that across your proprioceptor system. You can repeat that same step for our visual systems. You can repeat that in a different way when we talk about diet and so on and so forth. So your homework right now is to go look at each of your individual processes and divide those into 4 essential talking points, and to hit the subscribe button and become a visibility hacker. Now let's go back to talking about hooks. We're now at the point in which we have to figure out what our individual headlines are going to be, what those hooks are going to be that are going to grab our potential viewers' attention and at least grab their attention long enough that they pay attention to the story that we're going to tell them. We'll talk about stories more later, but let's figure out what our headlines are. Effective headlines really grab attention. Remember, we're creating hooks. So we want things to be catchy, to be interesting, to want to invite our people to click and to look further. So we can go the route of having really clickbaity titles that are like, 7 ways that your business can be free and you can get $1 million. That's a ridiculous headline that would never convert. But I want you to see the exaggeration there. I want you to see we want something wild, we want something crazy, we want something that maybe even doesn't quite make sense, because that's going to draw people in who are like, I'm curious about this headline, let me know more. We also want to make sure we're being specific about our headlines. We're identifying who our target market is and what we help them overcome. So make sure that your headlines utilize the words that make up your processes or your pillars. We're identifying who your customer avatar is, so we want those words as well to be incorporated. You've done your market research, so you understand who your ideal customer is and what obstacles they're facing, so you can utilize those keywords as well. So yeah, you're going to create headlines for every single one of your talking points, and you're creating talking points for every single one of your processes, which you've already created for every one of your pillars, which we've created for that one big statement that we started out with. So now it's your time to put all of this into action. So set your timers and let's get started. And in the meantime, for those of you just catching up, check out this video here check out the playlist, I should say, where we go into this entire year of content process. Download your workbook at the links down below, and I'll see you in our next one.